It's been about a year since I've even touched this Moto vlog, if that's even what it is to me anymore. Looking at 2-year-old footage of Sam and I riding around south of the border is nostalgic, sure, but it's taken on a meaning I'd never anticipated when we'd first set out. 2021 was our time to scoff at the fearful and let the restrictions on movement be damned. It was our year to leave our first home and meet the acquaintance of various roads and their various faces. Our AC was now to be the whistling wind all around us, our home's flooring to be sliding beneath our 2 wheels, and our roof to be a wide open sky. At times warming our backs, other times downright diluvian. I'm still grateful she came with me. Most women would never take a trip like this. Now I watch us from the future perspective of 2 years, knowing what was to come. We didn't return the same people. All this footage is what we would now call the pre-cancer days. Sam was to be diagnosed with breast cancer in just a matter of months from when I shot this footage. And truth be told, I was to crash and burn in my own signature expression of human frailty, nothing like adding insult to injury. Changing the subject now. I've already been back to work at my old driving job that I'd left. It's been one hell of a fight I've watched my wife endure. It's unlike anything I've ever witnessed firsthand, seeing her fight simply to stay alive. So often I get hung up on sweating all the small stuff in life, and then something like this, something of this magnitude comes along. How easily I forget the simple gratitudes I owe to God for just being alive and well. The truth is, it is a privilege to be part of the living. Most people are dead, long ago decomposed, reincorporated into the earth, their souls departed to the great mystery. But not us. Not yet. We are alive. And while still here, we keep grabbing breaths, we keep grabbing gears, and we keep moving.
Well, they blew up the chicken man in Philly last night, and they blew up his house too.
Nobody else.
Down on the boardwalk, they're ready for a fight. Gonna see what them racket boys can do.
So where were we? In this episode, we'll be leaving Vera Cruz, camping in another water park, staying in a Mexican love hotel, meeting a child guide in another Pueblo Mágico, and beating my skid plate on some more of those topes. Our route was Vera Cruz to Catemaco, to Villahermosa, then finally to the magical town of Tapijulapa, which is just next to the border of the Mexican state of Chiapas and the spicy vinagre state of Tabasco. See, I'm not kidding, there's the sign. But we aren't there yet. Just had to prove it's actually more than just a vinegary hot sauce, but rather a veritable geographical state within Los Estados Unidos Mexicanos, way. That's the United Mexican States for you Anglophones. And yes, that's the country's full official name, minus the "way" there at the end. We did some coastal riding till we arrived at Catemaco. iOverlander showed there was a campsite called La Jungla, or the Jungle, on the lake. It lives up to its name, if you can find it. The road back there wasn't rosy, but with narrow paths through the wilderness, it's better to be on the motorcycle. However, the Sam Cam seems to have captured my skid plate, getting some more of the red-headed stepchild treatment on the way in. No matter, we made it. Sam pitched the tent. We used the bathrooms with doors that didn't stay shut, and actually saw our first wild parrots. Seemed like a pairing, actually. Kinda like Sam and I.
You thought I was gonna go into the wrong bathroom.
I did. They actively choose to be together, and at the same time everyone within earshot occasionally hears them squawking back and forth. We draw the line at preening, though.
Yeah, that actually kind of hurt.
We stayed one night and braved the rough road out to the smooth blacktop one last time. For any overlanders out there curious of the condition of the road into La Jungla, I figured it was worth adding a bit more of a complete video of the narrow path to the campsite. It will definitely rattle the fillings out of your teeth. At this point in particular, I had to display some bravado for the missus. And we emerge from the jungle. We had breakfast, met a curious Mexican family in the restaurant as the only gringos in town seemingly, then happily obliged to a request to take a photo with a future fan to this channel. Unbeknownst to him, we really aren't a big deal. Oh, and his Facebook friends talked a lot of smack to him and us later. Chingones. We completed our photo shoot and got to moving. Other local bikers were friendly, but on the way out we passed a military checkpoint and got hassled by this guy.
Police coming straight out the underground.
He seemed to want to look through our stuff, but eventually let us go. Seemed like a petty tyrant, but whatever. Alright, so I'm low on brake fluid, and it looks like I've got to improvise with paper for a funnel. Here we go. I think it should be okay.
I'm good at pouring stuff.
Okay, then I'll let you pour me.
You just need that in there.
Yeah. Want to pour it for me? Just a little bit. It can't go over that max line. And it'll go higher when it's standing upright, you know. There we go. Yeah, definitely won't take it all. Go for it. A little bit more. Yeah, that's good.
I didn't need that.
You didn't?
No. It's easy.
We kept on rolling with our spirits up before trying to reach Coatzacoalcos, a failed narco state type of coastal town. The only problem was we got there and, well, there was a lot of things going on. First, it was incredibly windy, so sand kicked up with an almighty wrath from the beach. This Olmec archaeology museum would have been nice to see inside, but we were really just trying to keep the rubber side of us down. Sam bought some orange juice, though. We planned on staying there for the night, but it took the cake as the sketchiest place in Mexico we'd seen yet. We trusted lodging there for the night with the same alacrity one may trust in a screen door on a submarine. Even the Holiday Inn was in disrepair. We also saw a ton of missing people signs everywhere. So with that, we were a vapor trail out of there. we found it a better idea to soak our preoccupations in Tabasco. One big ticket thing we wanted to see while in Mexico was some Olmec relics. However, it looked that the museum may have been closed for the pandemic, so it seemed we had to settle with looking at this Mexican turkey instead. However, we got lucky and got let in after much deliberation with the guard. All under the pretense I not record anything, of course. The Olmec civilization attracted our attention because they lived in the far distant reaches of Mesoamerica's dim past. It is believed they prospered in pre-classical formative Mesoamerica from the proximity of 1200 to 400 BC. The Olmecs hold the title of being the earliest high culture of Central America. La Venta, where we are now, is the second major populated site they once occupied. Archaeologists believe San Lorenzo was the first inhabited city that served as the Olmec capital until 900 BC, when it deliberately faced destruction, relocating the old capital to La Venta, and where the first Mesoamerican pyramid was constructed.
Okay, 5 minutos y nos vamos. Muchísimas gracias.
La Venta appears to have reached its apogee between 800 and 400 BC. The Cascajal block was discovered there in 1999. It is our people into the earliest known writing system to date in the area. Most of the Olmecs lived in the tropical lowland region of Mexico. It is believed they are the cultural progenitors to the Maya and the Aztec people. Thanks to the Cascajal block, archaeologists believe the Olmecs were the first to develop the so-called long count calendar used by the Maya later, who also believed time itself was cyclical, not linear. The Olmecs are the name the Aztecs gave them, which meant rubber people. We don't know what they actually called themselves, but rubber was definitely a commonly used commodity. Their ethnic origin remains unknown. Concerning Native American DNA, some research was conducted in the past concerning anomalous skulls found in Brazil, but it was in the early days of that particular scientific discipline. The notion of these Polynesian or African-appearing skulls possibly having something to do with similar features found on the massive Olmec stone heads has been tossed out of bounds by researchers. But rebel researchers suggest we return to the DNA studies of these skulls, now that it's become much more precise. What is known of the culture is that it was deeply intertwined with its cosmology and deities. La Venta is home to the earliest known artifact of the representation of a plumed serpent in the Americas. Finding this snake adorned with feathers is compelling as it clearly influenced the cosmology of the later Maya and Aztec civilizations. The Aztecs called this deity Quetzalcoatl. Right here in the middle of this first plumed serpent image archaeological study has found can be seen a man holding a bag of some sort, which I will use as the perfect segue to introduce a contentious idea among archaeologists. History as we know it can have a much deeper dimension than is accepted by orthodox belief on the subject of American settlement. Transatlantic voyages could have happened far before the era of Columbus. The Olmec society might have been more cosmopolitan than traditionally believed, or had cultural or genetic exchanges from distant lands. Controversial journalists like Graham Hancock suggest there's a link with this bag-toting man within the plumed serpent. The padlock-shaped handbag can also be found in other archaeological sites across the world, such as Göbekli Tepe and ancient Sumer in Mesopotamia. Hancock mentions the imagery of these bags are in the hands of men who are believed to be civilization bringers, suggesting all these ancient civilizations share the inheritance of some remote civilization out of reach in mankind's prehistory, possibly a shared culture, once united, then divided following some worldwide cataclysm like the Great Flood. I'll touch more on that idea when we get to Palenque. As for this site at La Venta, it is thought to have suffered systemic destruction just before the Olmec civilization disappears from the archaeological record. Just behind the building we're in lay the archaeological site. Guess we'll just have to come back another day. Or just rip off this footage and pass it off as my own.
Okay. Hasta luego.
No matter. Time to point Furbia Ray due east and make it to Villahermosa. Just get by this masked lady riding on the fender there, hit the highway, give Furbia Ray some go-go juice, aka Super Sin Plomo, while Sam talks to her family.
Oh yeah, no, we stopped and got coffee. We got some cappuccinos. We need to eat dinner, but I just had to pee also. My God.
Wave goodbye to everyone.
Hasta luego.
And check into our Love Hotel just outside of town. When it's not used by bikers looking for a made bed, I'd say its intended use would make the term Love Hotel come across as a bit of a misnomer.
Buenas tardes. Buscamos alojamiento.
Le salen 3.50 la noche y se regresa mañana a las 12 del día.
Okay, 3.50 has dicho. Okay,
Es a las 8.
okay. Me pongo allí y después volvemos o qué hacemos?
¿Va a pagar en efectivo?
Sí, podemos o tarjeta, como
Puedo
quiera.
con tarjeta como guste. Si es con
Ok.
tarjeta le cobro aquí de una vez. Si
Okay.
es en efectivo le cobran en la habitación.
Okay. Entonces ya vamos con la tarjeta ya.
Ok.
¿Tiene Wi-Fi?
Ah, bueno, va a tener internet, me va a dar la 47 entonces. La de aquí de enfrente.
Okay, ya veo. Okay.
It wasn't exactly the bachelor's fantasy suite, but it was better than our tent.
Okay, we have inadvertently arrived at a Love Hotel. It is impressive. Sí, esto.
No, ahí dice la muchacha, lo que hay es a la plancha.
A la plancha? Okay, se lo digo a mi esposa. Un momento. They don't have pechuga rellena, they have grilled chicken.
Okay.
Sí, está bien.
Dice a la plancha y hay arrachera.
Okay, a la plancha está
Hay
bien.
a la plancha y arrachera.
Ah, arrachera.
¿Arrachera?
Sí.
Una orden de arrachera.
Sí, por favor.
Ah, ok.
Gracias. Oh.
Anyways, so at these Love Hotels, this is how they serve you so you don't get seen. They hit the little buzzer. Oh, I think I just shut the garage. That's not what you hit. Yeah, so they have that so that you can close it and nobody can see you in here. And then they serve you in this thing so nobody even sees you. I'm gonna show them the inside.
Here we go. Come into our Love Hotel. Oh, mi amor.
Bow, bow, wow.
I think I just broke the bed.
Nice.
It smells like a Love Hotel.
It does. Here's our sex chair.
And the shower.
The shower
Door.
with no door. So you can freshen up before you get back to your licentious behavior.
Licentious.
The next morning, we had breakfast from a van. Here's Sam telling these Mexican entrepreneurs about our route.
No, sí.
And here she rides into town with me.
You always get blood, Mama?
Talking to her mother through the headset.
$2 a day. That's $300 a month now. Or what?
We then tried our first pozole, a pre-Hispanic drink made of fermented corn dough and cacao.
Okay. ¿Cuánto vale?
Este vale 10.
10, okay.
Yes.
A ver, pongo esto aquí. ¿Y el pozole viene de los mayas o de los olmecas?
De los mayas, es de los mayas.
Ah, ya. ¿Cuántos años tiene?
Tiene bastante años.
Me imagino que sí.
Años. Sí,
Y se toma para coger fuerzas.
Sí. Aquí típico de Tabasco. Es la comida aquí. Esa es una comida.
Oh, okay, es una comida entera. Okay. Here, I have a 200. Do you have a?
They tasted like an indigenous Mexican post-workout shake you could sort of chew. They say if you drink it and like it, you'll take up residence in Tabasco.
Well, what do you think?
Está rico, muy rico, pero grueso,
Grueso.
grueso, poquito grueso, porque el maíz.
I could still go. Tell me when you're ready.
I'm ready.
Okay.
Careful.
Okay.
Why aren't you?
Oh.
Back to talking to the family. At this point, they just about telephonically traversed all of Mexico from peninsula to peninsula.
All right, love you, Mama. Okay.
We got out of town and headed south for Tapijulapa. The landscape began to dramatically change as we neared Chiapas. Along the way, the traveler will find at each shoulder large swaths of land completely covered in these palm trees planted in rows and columns. We have never seen so many of that type or such an abundance of them. This was much different than a desert.
What luck. Riding at 55 miles an hour, I get shat on.
More brutality for Furby Array with the Mexican topes. More jungle. And then you arrive in Tapijulapa. And get in this driver's way. And this is what it looks like to arrive in a small town. I decided to keep this ride of us first arriving because it was just too good. Everyone seemed to stare at us upon arrival. By the end of the video, we'd driven across the entire pueblito. I don't know if it was us or Furby Array looking oh so regal, but they definitely seemed to notice our arrival. Later we noticed tour buses full of their fellow countrymen would stop, spend a few hours seeing the place, and then leave. We, however, seemed to be a bit of a novelty to them though. Tapijulapa was far from the bustling cities in spirit and definitely a much more familial vibe than the lurid Coatzacoalcos. We parked and immediately happened upon Octavio, our child guide. I only say this because this is how he introduced himself. An adult guide soon materialized and showed us across the river to what he called the colony on the other side.
Ah.
He explained what happened to the townspeople during the flood in 2020. They seemed to really get hit with a double whammy with the pandemic, then a flood that hadn't been that devastating to the town since 1879. I read that it was so devastating that year that the only survivors were those who were able to climb up La Iglesia de Santiago Apóstol.
Durante el creciente.
¿Cómo se alimentaban?
Sí.
El gobierno.
Oh, el gobierno.
El gobierno les ayudaba, les daba el apoyo.
Ah, ok.
Dieron como albergues.
Ajá.
Y ahí llegaba la gente a comer y así.
Ok.
Y la gente que tenía familiares que su casa eran de 3 o 2 pisos, los ayudaban a subir, les daban chance que se quedaran ahí en lo que bajara el agua.
Wow. Qué fuerte. Mira, Octavio. Sí, cómo se nota.
Here's what the main road looked like during the flood. It was surprising how much they had recovered since such devastation in approximately just 5 months' time. We talked to some locals on that side about possible campgrounds, but there were these little pesky gnat-sized bloodsuckers that bit like mosquitoes and left incredibly itchy marks on you for days. My beautiful and beloved is much sweeter than myself, so she took the brunt of it, much worse than I. We crossed back to the other side on this Indiana Jones bridge. Octavio comforted us, though.
Algunos murieron.
Algunos murieron.
Ajá.
Qué bueno. Por caerse. It said some have died for falling down this.
Como cayeron en la piedra.
Yep.
Se rompieron la costilla o su cabeza.
¿Cómo se mueve, eh?
Por eso le dicen puente de hammock, porque se mueve como una hamaca.
Ah, it's called a hammock bridge because it moves like a hammock.
Our fate was not to be among those who died in Tapijulapa that day.
See?
So we decided to stay at a community hotel named Clavelina back in town. We shared some postres with Octavio. Later we got him some cereal and milk of his choosing from the local store. All in a day's work for our child guide.
Buenas. Oh, qué bonitos, eh? ¿Qué tipo de pájaro es ese?
Es un faisán.
Falsán.
Faisán.
Faisán.
Okay.
¿De dónde vienen?
De Texas.
De Texas. Estuvimos en Oklahoma hace Sí, aquí estas son las más pequeñas.
Octavio even showed us our room, a true expert in hospitality management. We dumped our stuff and followed a trail through the woods and ended up coming upon this guy.
Guanábana.
He knew English and was really friendly. He was happy to meet us and wanted to show us his garden.
Chayote.
Sayote?
Chayote plant.
Chayote.
Yeah, we have 15.
Wow.
15 chayote plants. In the mountain.
Uh-huh.
And then I planted it because the tourists like you wants to go to the river, so I appreciate that. I need to plant some plant from the mountain.
Yeah.
Yeah, very special.
Beautiful. Nice
Yeah.
touch.
Yeah. Ciruela.
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 Mm-hmm.
I like.
Thank you for showing us.
Then we went up to his house and met his wife, his chihuahua, and admired the view.
Very beautiful.
You can.
Sturdy.
Yeah.
So we've done it again. We found some stranger's house and we're going in.
Not so fast. I could tell Sam was beginning to hit her quota of interactions with others for the day. Like I said at the beginning, we didn't come back to the States the same people. The very next day, Sam became ill. The family who ran the community hotel were very hospitable and served chicken soup and teas from local plants to try and get her feeling better. At that time, we were happily unaware of the cancer growing in her left breast. Like I said, these were the pre-cancer days. Watching us tour Mexico and live in the moment in this way is nothing like our lives now. Today, living in the moment has taken on new meaning. I recall reading about men who faced a firing line, not knowing it was a mock execution meant to inspire terror. I read about how they felt and what thoughts passed through their minds, and their seemingly last moments before their souls would depart from their bodies. They felt contented to be able to go on living, even if they were to be totally destitute with nothing to their name save the permission to continue feeling the sun's warmth on their skin and to breathe the same air as the rest of the living. I read how a single thought passed through the mind of one. He thought if he were not to be executed, how time would become an eternity. Every minute an age. They'd be granted infinite life as a result of having their lives spared. The central question is what life is worth, and how we often know too late, especially if we have paid too much a price and not realizing how sacred and finite it really is. I feel everyone struggles or tries to avoid this lurking notion, even in the absence of calamity. The even more compelling aspect of the victims of the mock executions is how their lives were afterward. Were they granted infinite life, reckoning each minute separately, making an entire age of each? The truth is they didn't. In time, they later wasted many minutes. How true is this of the human condition? I've experienced it secondhand through Sam. Seeing her fight through the damning words some in the medical profession employ when talking of quote-unquote buying time or giving a prognosis of mere weeks is something ineffable and unforgettable. Medical talk of that nature seems not too far removed from the psychology of the condemned facing a firing line, whether it's true or not. She seems to not only bear it, but prove them wrong in spite of it. I don't know how I would do if I were her, to be honest. I suspect not as well. We are still in the thick of it, by the way. From my perspective, that of her husband, the stories of the psychology pervading those condemned by the state before and after their mock executions reflects back to me a clear image of my fickle perception of time on earth, specifically the time shared with the love of my life as of lately. How quickly I clung to every moment when things were trending downward. Yet, even more deceiving, how quickly I forget the soul-redeeming gratitude of each moment together when life seems stable once again, when the false veneer of control hasn't been stripped away, or rather reapplied, cast over what still remains holy and sacred, is now coming across as something almost to be not only the norm, but expected once more. The past is a memory, a thought arising in the present. Editing these 2-year-old videos reinforces its suspension in a time which we shall never return to. These videos I stitch together and release. They bear witness to simple moments suspended in time, like a tiny pocket of ancient air caught in amber. As for the future, it is nothing more than another thought, a more uncertain one, arising in the present. A word synonymous with gift in the English language. Am I seeing it that way, though? Have I renounced it, fled from it, looked over its shoulder to what desired gift may be next? Or have I chosen in this very moment to accept it as it is, the very life of life, the present? The answer is, really, yes to both, for better or worse. The gift of going through this with Sam is not only the empathy for what she has experienced in loving me through my own illness, but even more so the rejiggering of certain attitudes and tacit beliefs I display in my behavior or reaction to consciousness itself. In short, the gift is the simple awareness I have a choice in how I may experience the present moment. It can just be another wasted minute frittered away, or it may, with proper attention and if not just for a minute, yield infinite life, an eternity enwrapped within 60 seconds. It's my choice.